So quick introduction. My name is Ray Van Hilst. I am Director of Client Strategy here at Vanguard Technology. And I work with our clients on getting beyond the, hey, wouldn't it be great if questions that come up whenever we're doing a project and help them figure out the things that we should do. And we look at the business reasons and the why, not just the how. And so our goal today is really to focus on that why question as we think about integrations between our content management system and our website and other systems. And we're not going to really get into the into the how, excuse me. So we're not going to get technical. We're not going to look at code. We want to keep this friendly and informative for you so you can help make those decisions and plan going forward. So some quick background for you about Vanguard Technology. We are a design firm headquartered in Chicago with an office in DC. And what's unique about us is that we work exclusively with associations. So we work with much of the technology that you use in your content management systems and your association management and private communities and all that information. So we do a good bit of integration work, and that's why we're going to be talking about this today. Speaking of integrations, these are just a few of the association management software platforms that we integrate with. So there's many of them out there. We see many things that pop up, and that was questions that arise throughout the course of an integration project. So that's why we wanted to put together this webinar for you today. So let's go ahead and start off with a few statistics. And you may think that everyone is out there is doing all these integrations. And the first thing to understand is the fact that we did a survey a couple years ago, and we asked people, what is one of the most important requirements for you when you're doing a website redesign project? And 60% of the people that took our survey said that the single sign-on between the website and the member database is one of the most important requirements. And that's a key hurdle that people are looking for. Now, the interesting thing about that, though, Tom Lehman with the Lehman Reports does an association management software satisfaction survey every year. He actually found that only 60% of the associations he surveyed even have their AMS integrated with their content management system and their website, which we found that was a really interesting stat. It's such an important thing, but not everyone is universally doing that. Tom actually goes on to say that third-party integration is a challenge, but it's required. And as you take a look at how these websites are architected and put together, they become that much more important. This, by the way, is a pain point, not just in the association world, but in the overall marketing world. eMarketer, great resource, online resource for lots of best practices and information. They did a survey where they talked to marketers about what is holding you back from having this integrated marketing activity. And the number one answer was non-integrated platforms. So this is something that's holding us back as we work with associations, but it's also holding back for-profit marketers and everyone else out there. So we want to have those integrations as we think about that. So what do we think of when we talk about an integration between your website and other systems? Well, first, let's understand the perspective of the member, the perspective of the user. They come to our website, www.greatassociation.org, and they log in and they look at this web experience, and they may click through a few different systems in different places. They'll think about taking a course. They'll check out the online community. They'll update their member profile. Well, we on the back end know that those are all multiple systems. If you're on this call today, you understand that that's the association management software, that's your private community, that's your LMS. But to the user, that is one system. That is the association website. So that's what they're taking a look at, and they're expecting that cohesive, consistent, integrated experience as they go through the process. And that's what we need to take into consideration as we think about these integrations. So we said we're going to talk about member happiness. And that is our goal. And as we think about that member when they come to the website, and that's what they're coming for that member happiness, how do these integrations create that happiness? And let's also be honest, what are some of the things that hold us back? From the happiness perspective, first things first, the integrations are the key to unlocking, or in some case, locking down your members-only content. Every association and every organization out there has a section of content that exclusively for members. This is a value. That's why people pay their dues every year. We want to have that out there, but we have to have some sort of integration to know that. I mentioned the cohesive experiences the users expect the experience to work across all platforms. So that integration becomes key to how they have that cohesive and consistent experience. But what's holding us back? Well, integrations are perceived as being complex, and hopefully today we're going to demystify some of that and make it easier for you. We start talking about things like code and cookies and web services and APIs, and that throws a lot of people off. And admittedly, some vendors out there make it a little harder than it has to be. Part of that is because across all the vendors in the space, we do find that there's a lack of standards and methodologies. Some vendors use different tools in different ways, so we have to approach it technically from a different perspective. But as we look at that and as we prioritize our integrations of what we're doing, we need to make sure we know why we're doing this before we head down and put our developers into the computers and they start writing that code. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 3 real reasons for doing an integration. Our first one we're going to talk about is reducing friction. Then we're going to talk about improving operations. And thirdly, is enhancing the user experience or supporting our business goals. Reducing friction is a big one. And we hear about the Uberization of marketing and how can we make things easy. And Amazon has their one-click shopping. And that is all about reducing friction. So this is our first opportunity as we take a look at why we want to do an integration. How can we make things easier for the user? Some samples of this. Single sign-on. Basically, I put my credentials in, I log in with my username and my password, and I'm into all my systems at once. There's nothing worse than that pain point, and I'm sure we've all been there, where you think you're logged in, and you hit another page, and then you're asked to log in again. That's a disconnect for the user, and it creates a pain point. We want to make things easy to buy. We in associations, we love not just our dues revenue, but our non-dues revenue. So how can we make this process, how can we use an integration to reduce that friction, make it easy to buy? Federated search is another great example of an integration that does that. Federated search is when you have a search box that queries all of your sites. So we can use an integration then to pull results back from multiple systems. Taking a look at single sign-on a little in depth, I'll use an example here. One of our project sites for AAPMR.org. This is the American Academy of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation. We start off with our login screen. This site happens to be integrated with AMS. So we're logging into AMS. And at this point, as we go through the process, we say, hey, AMS, here's our information. Is this person a member? Yes, no. And we integrate and we pull that data back over to the CMS. And we use the CMS in this case as, think of it as the set of keys. You've got the key, you've unlocked it. And the goal from that perspective is to then say, okay, well, we're logged, the top window that you see here, you're logged in now to the website. Welcome, John. You're welcome to the website. Now we can say, here's your members only content. The middle window is the learning management system. Welcome, John. Here are your courses that are great for you. We've logged you into both systems. And the bottom one is the member portal where the user can where John can update his information. In one step, we use that integration to reduce that friction and get John into 3 systems at once. He doesn't need to put his information in. It's not frustrating for him. So that's our first example of taking a look at that and reducing that friction. Our second example and the second reason to do an integration is to improve operations and reduce overhead. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to do the official poll, but raise your hand if you love doing double work. Nope, I don't think anyone actually raised their hands. Many systems have the information that we want to display on the website. Continuing education, discussions, member directory, information like that. So can we use an integration to pull that data over to the website and show that information? Vice versa, can we take content and push it out to other places? Take our blog posts, our newsletters, push that out to Twitter, or our news articles are into your community or into your learning management system. Get that there. And then lastly, using the integration for that centralized permissions management. Do you need to taking a look at have your roles and your member types and your AMS and managing it there so you don't have to do that in two different places and across systems. A great example of reducing that work. This is the homepage from one of our clients, the Independent Insurance Agents of Texas. The column on the left that you see here where it says upcoming in education. As you can see, these guys do a lot of continuing education courses all across the state of Texas. It looks like they have an average of 2 to 3 per day. Well, someone in the education team for the registration process has to put this information into the member database in the registration portal because that's how that's going to be tracked. Well, why are we making, with all of this content, why would we want to make their job harder and have them put it in the website too? When we can use an integration and say, hey, why don't you go get this information from the AMS and display it here? In one step, the team is able to not only handle the registration process and what's required for that, but they're able to publish the content in the website. We've made it easier for the team, made things a little bit more efficient. Our next example, and our next reason to do an integration is to think about how can we enhance the user experience, or in some cases, the business goals. I mentioned member roles, for example. Many organizations have different levels of membership. So if you pull those member roles over, you can now enhance the user experience based on that membership. The classic example that we've done for many clients is if someone logs in and they are a board member, and we know that they've logged in and say, welcome, Joe board member, we can now say, hey, here is information that just for you as a board member that is only for, that is pertinent and saves you time and makes this user experience better. Content personalization is all the buzz. In fact, I gave a session at ASAE Tech, and I'll be giving a session at an upcoming conference about that. But that content personalization is driven by that integration. Who is this user? What type of member are they? Where are they? What are their interests? Based on that, now we can drive the experience. Or even web analytics, which is for a business goal, is helping us drive better decision making for the content owners. Here's an example in the back. Now, this is on the back end of the content management system, but we integrate Google Analytics into the back end of the content management system. So now the content owner within the organization is able to take a look and say, hey, how many people have viewed my page? Is this relevant? How much time are they seeing on it? Are they leaving? And as those content owners are looking at the analytics on their pages, and by the way, this is all in the same system, so we've also made things easier. We've reduced that operations for them. We're helping them manage their business goals and helping them make better decisions about the content they're going to publish. Nice low-hanging fruit on the integration thing for us. So those are our 3 key reasons as to why we want to do that. So as you take a look at those, how do we want to get started? So we've got some quick tips, and I'm going to call this our quick start guide to a better process to help you plan for your integration. All right, let's jump into this. Let's take a look at your integration plan. First of all, let's start with the business reasons. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to reduce that friction? Are you trying to make things better? How does that integration tie into our reasons? And let's also define, what does success look like? What does that do for the user? Does it make it easier for them to click and purchase? Does it automatically put it in the item in their cart? What does it mean for the business? And what it means for the business might be saving money. And as you take a look at that, you might say, let's go back to our example of pulling the content items over. You saw on that page, there were 10, 12 items. And if that's 15 minutes to update in the content management system, and you put a staff rate to that, you can actually quantify with a dollar amount how much money you're saving with that. On the flip side, by the way, and I didn't put this in here, that might also be a reason to say we don't need to do an integration. If there's an integration that's requested that's just a one-off that you need to do once a year, might not be worth it. It might just be, you might have a better ROI to just go ahead and do it by hand. So take a look at what that means for your business. As you take a look at your planning your integrations, also think agile. We're talking about agile project management and agile marketing. What's your first step? What's that low-hanging fruit? And then build upon that. Think about that as a process that you're going to go through that. Define that success. Let's also understand that in the integration process, you do have two masters to serve. There's the business owners, the marketing, the membership, the communications teams. These are the I want people, and I'm part of them. I'm usually the one that's making the I want ask. I would really like to reduce friction or make it better or sell more products. This is my need. And then we have the implementation team. Those are the people that are tasked with. That's going to be your developers or your vendors and the technologists. So some tips we want to consider as we take a look at those. First things first for the business owners. Let's define our business and our content goals. So what are our goals we have? If we're doing personalization or we're doing a better purchasing process, what are our goals around that? And then how does that integration support it? Take a look at the data that's going to be used. It's great to say, I want to pull all my data over for identifying members for content personalization or for events or for products. Well, that means that data has to be there. Have you mapped that out? And then do you have the content to support that? As a one-off, you really want to avoid those one-off integrations that happen just once, and quite honestly, you spend a lot of money with the developer and you never use it again. Take a look at the long-term implications of this. For your events that you're pulling over, are those going to keep coming? Will they keep getting added to the system? Do you have the content? We know when we talk about content personalization, which is a whole other subject, but you want to personalize. Well, do you have the data to do that? And then do you have the content to support that? Are you able to support this on an ongoing basis? For the implementation team, now this is where we crack open the systems and we start taking a look at it. So your business owners have said, hey, this is the data we want to use. Now's the time to take a look. Well, do your systems actually have this data? Do you have the demographics that the marketing and the membership team are asking to segment content and users are? Is it accurate? Is it documented? Take a look at those technical requirements. And this is where our tech teams really start getting into things. What do the systems require? Is there a web service, an API, a cookie, and other alphabet soup type technology that's swirling out there? Along with those requirements, also, what are the limitations? Sometimes with APIs, a good example is you want to take a look at the uptime and the performance of that API, so you're not doing a big data draw in real time, because that can impact both sides of that. Does the integration method exist? APIs, and if you don't, I realize I'm saying that, and I should qualify, that's application programming interface. It's basically a connection, but if you're non-technical, that's a connection between the two systems, or a web service, that's like an email between two systems. Many times these exist already, and they just need to be modified. When they do, that is great. Woohoo, we covered hurdle one. But sometimes they don't. And the vendors need to get involved. We say, okay, well, here's what I need. Vendor A, I need this. Vendor B, I need that. And let's put this together. So take a look at, does that integration method exist for you? These are the kind of questions that are going to help you plan for, can you meet those needs of the business team as you go into that? So some tips for some good integration after we've gotten that planning out of the way. Integrations are only good as the data, flexibility, and allowing time. What I said for the technical teams, do you have the data? Well, if you don't, that's a problem. And if it's not accurate, that's a problem. We've worked with a number of clients that said, hey, we have these great plans. They look in the system and they're like, we don't have it. Okay. First, before you engage us, take on a project to clean up the data or collect it. Make sure you have. Or say, you know what? 80% of this is I don't really trust, but this 20% is good. Let's start with this. Adjust your plan. Keep in mind that as the data comes from the systems, you want to make sure it's good. Two classic things that happen with that, or the best example is when we do complex member directories. If all of the user members' information is not in the AMS and is not updated in a timely manner, you might, it's a good reason, the opportunity to delay that, or start a program where you get everyone to update their data in the system as you go through that. So make sure you have good data before you start. Flexibility is key. I mentioned different vendors have different standards. They have different ways they want to do that. There's, as much as we would love to say it's standard across all the association vendors, that's not the case. So sometimes we find we have to try different methodologies as we go through that. We at Vanguard, we employ we do enough of this. We have enough experience, and we know what we're doing. We know that vendor A requires this and vendor B requires that. So we stay flexible, and you may have to ask your vendors to do the same. Be agile and iterative. Think about that. But also pick a lead vendor. One vendor within your integration process is going to be more critical than the other. Selfishly at Vanguard Technology, we want it to be us because we want to log the user into the website and the AMS at the same time. That gets the user in. And from that point, we generally take the lead, and we'll then work with the other systems to pass the user off. That means that also when there's something that happens within the integration process, you can go back to that lead vendor and say, hey, what's going on there? So if a web service is down or something breaks, you have that one lead vendor you can go back to. Allow time for that development and testing. There are some integrations, for example, single sign-on with most standard AMSs that we work with. That's a standard project for us. We know what we need. We define the key fields we're going to pull over. That's good. But depending on what you're doing, maybe you have custom demographics that are hidden in a different table somewhere in the AMS, or you have different events or different products. It might take a little longer. A good way to allow time for that when you're doing an integration, particularly in a website redesign process, is to schedule those integrations early in the project, and particularly if they're delivering content, because you don't want to have to go type the content in the website and then do the integration. Pull those up early, get that done, and then test thoroughly as you go through that. Take a look at your load testing, your use cases, your requirements. Go back as you put that together. Now, bonus tip for you. Also, be sure that integration is part of your partner's culture. I said earlier, when we think about the ecosystem and the web experience for an association website, the user thinks it's one, but we all know there's multiple systems in the back end. Make sure that your partner that you're working with does this on a regular basis. Is this in their DNA? Do they work with the vendors? Do they say, oh yeah, I have experience doing X, Y, Z, or we've done it with this and these pieces? Do they understand your business? The case of the continuing education, we know that with IIAT, we know that they get a lot of revenue off of their continuing education. So that was a good example of where we could use that and pull that into and use the integration now to help drive their business. And then do your vendors understand your AMS and other systems? What's their experience like? How are they working? Are they thought leaders? Are they used to that? Do they understand what's best done in the AMS or in the LMS or these other systems? So how is this all creating member happiness? I mean, that is our goal, right? We want happy members that embrace our integrations and come back and pay us and renew their dues each and every year, right? Well, let's explore what this means from the member perspective. Let's answer what's in it for me, for the member. What's going to make them happy? Well, when they come to the website, their pain point is they want to be prepared. I want to come in, I want to find content that's going to keep me informed and help me stay current or ahead in my career as I go through that. They want to connect and network with people. They want to use those integrations to get into systems and get that networking, and they want to save time. That's back to our friction point. I'm in, I'm out. I want to make that quick purchase. I don't have a lot of time. The multiple logins annoy me. So what they need from that integration is a unified experience. We want, like I said, we want to avoid those multiple logins. We want that consistent experience. Make it seem, even though we know we're piecemealing systems together, make it seem like that unified experience. Let's help them stay prepared in their careers by giving them access to that content. which we know may live in different places. Help them get to that and offer them to keep it easy, that easy engagement and purchasing process. Let's reduce that friction as they go through that. So some key takeaways for us as we think about these. First things first, let's know why you're doing an integration. Let's go back to our 3 reasons about reducing friction, improving operations, and enhancing the user experience or business goals. Know why you're doing that and build a plan. Make sure you have the pieces and the data and the content that you really need. If you don't, start off with that assessment or an audit and take a look and see, do you have it in the places you need, and come back to it. And don't overthink those CMS integrations. Your partners have done this before. Go ahead and say, hey, have you seen XYZ? Or I'd like to do this. Approach from the business goal. Your CMS partners will understand what you're asking for and will be able to guide you and help you plan for those integrations as they go along. So that gives you, that covers it for us, and that's some key things to consider as you plan for planning member happiness with your integrations. If you have any questions, I'll open up the Q&A panel and see if any has put anyone in there, but you are also welcome to reach out to me. My information is here on the slide. Drop an email, give me a call, give me a shout out on Twitter, and more than willing to answer any technical or basic questions. Excellent. And it looks like we do not have any questions, so we kept this nice and short for you to under half an hour. That was our goal for today. Get you some quick hitting information. So thank you very much for attending this afternoon. This is recorded, and we will be sending out the slides to you and the recording to you after the fact. So no other questions? Wonderful. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Melinda. Thanks for attending, and have a great day.